And welcome back, fourth and long fans. It's your footy correspondent, Coach Donnie, has here back with another part of my AFL supporter series. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I have coming to me from Sydney, Australia, Miss Sarah Bears. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I am not doing too good. This, ladies and gentlemen, I will be very, very honest. This is a very good friend of mine. I cannot wait to have this chat. If you can see in the video, you already probably know why for the ones that have listened to me and watched me talk about my particular team, but we'll get there in just a second. So I like kind of finding out a little bit about the person that I'm chatting with, a little bit outside of the game of footy. So if you want to, real quick, just give me a quick little bio of who Sarah is.
Well, Sarah is a Sydney girl, born and bred in Sydney, mum to four beautiful kids, and a special ed teacher, and just love my footy.
There is not a problem with that. So we will stay in the footy. I got to ask this because I like knowing why. I know why I love footy, but what's your favorite thing about the game of football?
I think it's the excitement, and I think it's the way that it brings fans together. So you become part of a family, and I really like it. Like, it's different to other codes of football. So the fans are different too. Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. So I'm gonna make you go back in time a little bit. And I know you're a Sydney girl,
Mhm.
so
Yep.
unfortunately, footy is not massive in Sydney. But can you remember what your kind of your earliest footballing memory is?
Yes, so I spent quite a bit of time with my grandparents in Sydney. I was actually born just down the road from the SCG, so and lived like in a city. So my grandparents were the caretakers on a small little island in the middle of Sydney Harbour, which you can kind of see. It's not far from the Opera House. It's called Fort Denison. And they were the caretakers there from, oh gosh, like 1963 till 1985. So me being born in the late 70s, I spent quite a bit of my time with them. And I always say I was raised by them. And my grandfather, being a true Aussie, was just into every sport imaginable. So one of his daughters moved down to Victoria. So they would travel, and the love of AFL, I guess, began. And then, of course, when South Melbourne moved to Sydney, it became a massive thing for him. And yeah, it's kind of how our love for the Bloods began. And I was just born into it. So yeah.
That is not a problem. So my next question is kind of already been answered, but I will ask it anyway.
Yeah.
What's your club, and how did you fall in love with that club?
My brother actually played AFL, so my club is the Sydney Swans. It's the only club in Sydney, too, I have to add. The only one that matters. Sorry, Giants fans.
Shots
Um,
fired. Shots fired.
yes, of course. And yeah, he played AFL, and so just locally. And yeah, we would, and of course, the Sydney Swans. It was really hard for them to get a good following, so they would often send out, or promote their club and game days by having free entry. So we would always go, and yeah, and they were the days where you'd get the reserve match played on the SCG just before the first grade match, as it was called back then. So the seniors game now, and you'd get two games for free. You'd get a whole day out of it. And yeah, it was just a nice family day out.
Awesome, awesome. So I gotta ask, since it sounds like the family was kind of into the game, was there anybody in the family that kind of broke ranks and decided to support a different AFL team?
Well, my Melbourne-based family, they were very much Collingwood and Geelong supporters. So I don't know who they support now. We've lost touch, but yeah, it's interesting. I've always stayed true, you know. Sydney girl, born down the road from the club. Can't go wrong going for the Swans.
That's not a bad thing. Sometimes you hear some interesting stories about how one child was a rebel and decided to pick a club.
Yeah,
So it's always fun to hear some of the stories where the best one is you support this club if you live in this house. If you not, get out. And I love
yes,
those
yes.
stories. Those stories are great. You don't
Well,
get them very much here in the States. So for me, it's just this interesting aspect of Aussie culture that I actually love. So
yeah, well, my brother actually played for a local team. They were the Hawks, so he wore the brown and gold, and it was, yeah, they're just colors that I can never get behind. So, but
to
I do
each
have
their
a
own.
friend that I work with, a very good friend, and he barracks for the Giants. He was a Swan supporter, but being a PE teacher, um, he was, and out this part of Sydney, it's Giants territory where we live. So he sort of was involved with the setup of the Giants and everything. And then a big part of their promotion was getting into schools. And there are territories. So I have spoken to the Swans when I've been at banner making, and they're like, oh, what school are you at? And when I tell them, they're like, oh, that's out of our territory. We're not allowed to go out there. So yeah, there are sort of boundary lines, but he and I always have a lot of friendly banter, especially when the Swans are playing the Giants. We both watch AFL like crazy, all the games, every round pretty much. But yeah, there's always that friendly banter and of us with, Giants versus Swans. So
Yeah, I know the feeling. My host who hosts this podcast on the kind of the channel is a GWS fan. He picked GWS
all
as
right.
his club. So we had some very playful banter, shall we say, for the finals. In fact, it was our first ever stream that we ever did. We streamed together watching that
Oh wow.
final between GWS and Sydney, and it was the first time he had watched a game with me. So he had kind of saw how I watch it, different things like that. And there's playful banter between the two of us. Like when GWS won the first one, he started playing the big sound every time he saw me. So
Yes.
there was fun with it, and so I ribbed him just about as much when Sydney beat him the second time we played later in the year. So it's fun to do that. I like when you can have playful banter with people. I think it is a blast. So
Yeah. Oh, it
so
is.
so we'll stay with that. Kind of going back, Nuri, can you remember the first Swans item that you ever were given or bought?
Yes, actually. So my grandfather bought me my very first swan scarf. And so back when my youngest daughter decided that she's very analytical and she was watching a football game with me, I was probably 2016, I think. And she liked the fact that it was fast and high scoring, and she started to look at statistics and things like that. And so then she got really, really involved. She's as passionate as I am about it. And she has her scarf, which she calls her lucky scarf. And that's actually the scarf that my grandfather gave to me. I gave to her the very first time that I took her to a match, I think in 2018. So yeah. So it's there, and I'm sure if she has children, she'll pass the tradition on. So
It's a family heirloom. Those are great. That's a
yeah,
really cool story. I love that. And I think
yeah,
I know the answer to this next question because you and I have had plenty of discussions about this. But I've told you and I've told many in the Swans group, I'm a diehard. I get up at 4 a.m. and watch the games if
yeah,
it's on at 4 a.m. or 2 a.m. So I consider myself a diehard. But everybody's fandom is a little bit different. Everybody supports their club a little bit differently.
absolutely.
Could you describe how you support the Swans? Are you a diehard? I know you're part of the cheer squad, so I'm pretty sure how I know this answer, but I want to hear you kind of describe your fandom of the Bloods.
Oh, I'm more than diehard. I don't know if there's a category beyond that. That's me. So it is like there is Swan stuff everywhere in my house. You can see some stuff behind me. It's in my classroom. Oh goodness, yeah, I do. I'm in the cheer squad, so I get there early and like to help set up and that kind of thing. I go to banner making when it's on. I'm hoping that COVID sort of hasn't ruined that tradition for next year, but yeah, I go to that. And as you would have seen throughout the 2020 COVID, we were based in interstate. We were traveling in hubs and that kind of thing. So the kids and I would make banners here at home because that was something we really missed, just going to the game. But yeah, as a family, we have our little traditions. So it's always good luck on game day to listen to the Sydney Swans playlist that I created on Spotify. So yeah, there's that. My daughters and I have lucky socks. We're pretty diehard. Yeah.
I love it. Absolutely love it. That is fantastic. And I have to say, I remember seeing your banners during that 2020 season. Those were always kind of a highlight of before game day, was being able to see your banners. So I truly appreciate that you continued that. That was absolutely fantastic. Again, we'll stay in the past just a little bit. Can you remember the first Swans game you ever attended?
No, I don't. I really don't. I was too young. So, but it was back in the days of, Paul Roos playing. My teenage crush was Tony Lockett, good old plugger. So I used to have a big sign that I went to, and this is obviously when I was a little bit older, and it had plugger power on it. So, but yeah, I don't remember my first game, but it was back in the day, with all those classic sort of players, Warwick Kappa, all of them. So
okay, we'll stay with that. I think I kind of know the answer to this one, and I love this one because it's like picking your favorite child. This is never easy for some people, and some people it is. Can you pick your favorite Swans player of the past, and do you have a favorite player on the Swans currently?
Yes, so it was always Tony Lockett. Just loved him. He was always this big chunk of a man who is just so quiet and unassuming, but he could sort of barrel that football down the field, and he'd celebrate his win, but at the same time be quite humble about it. So I think that's what endeared him to me. At the moment, I've always loved Isaac Heaney. I do think he's gorgeous. My girls, all my children, my 4 children think that, they think I'm crazy. But I love to have some banter with them, and so if I see a post of Isaac anywhere, I'll sort of tag them in it and hashtag my boyfriend that's not my boyfriend. Or my children's future stepfather. They absolutely just hate me for it. But, and it's all in jest, of course. Also, too, because my daughters actually attend the school that I teach at. So they're in the mainstream section, whereas I'm in the special ed section. So all the staff there know of my love for the Swans as well. And there's a couple of staff members that follow AFL, and there is another fellow Swanee supporter there, and he will always, if he sees the girls in the corridor, he'll always yell at the top of his voice, "Go the Swannies!" or he'll, or the teachers will say, "Oh, how's your, future stepdad?" and things like that. So the girls just cringe. But I absolutely love Dylan Stephens. So I've got to know his parents, specifically his dad and his aunt, through social media, and I see a lot of potential. I follow him and Will Gould through the draft and their younger years. So I do follow sort of like the lower grades in football. And during COVID last year, my youngest daughter and I went down to the academy games down at Wollongong. So we actually got to see Braden Campbell and Errol Goulden play before they actually became seniors for us. So yeah, and I see so much potential with Will Gould and Dylan Stephens. So and Dylan wears the number 3. That's always been my lucky number. So yeah, and I've told his dad so many times, like he's so far away from home and he's still a kid. So I told his dad, we'll adopt him. So yeah.
I love that. And I've actually had contact with his dad too. And when he re-signed, I was super excited. Even reached out to him and was like, "I'm so happy that he re-signed. I think he's going to be a good one. I know if he gets a little more time, he's going to show why he was where he was. And I'm with you. I think a lot of Swans people are like, when are we going to see Will Gould? That is the one.
Yes.
He's the
Yes.
enigma of our list that I think everybody wants to see. So, and I hate saying it, as sad as I am to see Jordan Dawson go, I think Dawson going might be the opening for Will Gould to see more time, to get his senior debut and maybe get himself a more consistent shot in the seniors, because I think he fits Dawson's abilities and skills just as much. He may not be as tall, but I think he's still got the kicking ability and the runoff halfback. I think he's going to be, I really think Dawson leaving could be the opening that Will Gould really, really needs, but we'll have to see. So
I
well,
absolutely agree with that. And I know last year that I tried to start a hashtag on Twitter saying go for Gould, but yeah, I'm just desperate to see him play. I agree with you though, like with Dawson going, I think that could be the opening for Will. So and I think it's important that the younger ones get a shot at the seniors, so that like they don't sort of lose momentum and want to go home too. So yeah, I think though that he would be a fantastic defender. So yeah.
Definitely, for sure. Now, I know we've had the Swans have had a lot of success recently, but I always like hearing this. Tell me your most memorable moment as a Swan supporter.
Plugger's 1200th goal.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's absolutely fantastic. And the best
Yes.
part is that hopefully we'll cross our fingers that Buddy kicks 1,000 at the SCG. You'll have two of those moments to be able to
Yes.
savor as
Yes.
a. Go ahead.
So my boys are desperate for that. So specifically my youngest, he is, yeah, absolutely desperate for it. So yeah, he was really happy because when we were there for Buddy's 300th game, but this is obviously pre-COVID days, and Buddy did the run around at the end of the game. He high-fived my youngest. So he's like, maybe I'll get another high five, Mum, on the 1,000th goal. I said, maybe. And I'm just, hopeful. So it's very exciting.
Well, we'll definitely have to see. I hope he does it. I hope he does it at home. We'll have to see. I don't know about you, but this next question, I'm very excited to hear your answer on this, because I came in kind of pessimistic on this season. I came in thinking we'll see some improvement, but I was not expecting what ended up happening. What were your thoughts on this season? Did this season, making the finals, being fifth on the ladder, surprise you as much as it did me? Because I was not expecting this Swans to be this good this quickly.
Look, I've been a Swan supporter for many, many years. So I've seen the highs and I've seen the lows. Like I said, back in the day, they couldn't even get fans at the games. So they were handing out free tickets and free transport. So just to get people there. I've always loved my team no matter what, but this year just blew me away. I don't know what it was. We just came out guns blazing, for lack of better words, and it was just phenomenal. I think that we performed well, even given the fact that we still had to move around due to COVID. So I think too that having less injuries helped us. I'm aware that in 2020 we had I think we had the most injuries on any AFL team. So I think that having that stability this year really helped push us forward. But yeah, I think this is the first year in a long time that I've seen our guys play as a united front too. So I think that helps.
I completely agree. Like, I think my moment of the year was when Rowbottom and Stevens had to join into that GWS game when they had the last minute pull of Cunningham and Callum Mills. And to see the boys when Horse told the boys that the other two guys who had played the day before were going to have to play again, and how excited they got. And just, you could see the togetherness of the group. Like, legitimately, that was one of my favorite games of the entire season. I know it in the long run, it was kind of bittersweet, especially with Horse, the wipe away, whether it was a tear or not, we don't know, but I'm in my personal opinion, I thought he was super proud of his guys stepping up. They went down early and they fought back and won the game. Legitimately my favorite game of the season. I will probably watch that game back at least once over the off season, because that was my moment of the year, because it just showed how tight knit this group is. And if they can stay healthy, the addition of Laddams over the offseason, I think they're on the right track. Yes, it stinks to lose Dawson, but I think with the youth coming through, you've got Goulden had a great season. I think Campbell, if he can have more games, considering he had those injuries, this team is scary good, legitimately scary good. I don't know about you. I don't know about you, but I think this team is a legitimate flag contender over the next couple of years if they can stay healthy.
I absolutely agree. And I think that you can see the united front even off the football field. Like you see through the Swans social media, through their training, their little, I love seeing Paps and Parker and their little wind up sessions and that kind of thing. And I also think that, just recently, actually this weekend, I think almost the whole team were on Sydney Harbour, according to their to their own personal social media accounts. And you can see the brotherhood there. And you're right. I think with the young talent that we promote, and then players that want to be there, I think that's really key to a successful team as well. So yes, disappointing to lose Dawson, but you can't blame someone for wanting to go home. And I always think, well, good luck to them, but it's always sad to see them go. But at the end of the day, we have players that want to be with us, like our new recruit. Look at how amazing we have done with the addition of Tom Hickey. He wanted to come to Sydney. I think that makes all the difference. So,
and I know if I remember correctly, you're one of your little ones, one of your young ones, just fell in love with Tom Hickey. I loved how I think, didn't Tom Hickey respond to one of your
yes,
posts? I thought that was fantastic. That was absolutely
yes.
awesome.
My youngest, Callum, he was like, who is that guy with that wild hair? And just, look at him fly. And I was like, that's Tom Hickey. He's our new one. And that was it. And then we were he's like, we have to have a sign. I have to have a banner to take with me to the games. And you would see through my own personal social media that I do countdowns to how many days is left until the season starts. So I've already started that because the kids get really excited about it, and he was like, I have to have this banner. So we came up with Tricky Hickey, and yeah, so I put it up on Instagram and tagged Tom in it, and he did. He was he liked the post. I know what the first time he saw the banner at the first game that we took it to, he had a bit of he smiled and sort of waved in the warm-up before the game began. And then eventually we got there early one day and for one of the games, and we got to meet Tom, and he signed the banner for Callum, and and posed for a few photos. So that was nice. And then he did comment, like when I put those photos up on social media and tagged him in it, and he said, it was nice to meet you, Cal. So that was really lovely. So
that was awesome. So we've kind of hopped into it a little bit as we've chatted here, and I love these conversations. Are you one of those that you really keep an eye on the off season? Like you're looking to, especially with the Swans this year, which we all knew that Dawson most likely was going to be traded. Then we hear Pete Laddams wants to come from Port to Sydney, and then it was kind of the fluctuation. Will the Dawson deal happen? Will Dawson go to the pre-draft? The preseason draft, and Sydney won't get anything. So did you keep an eye on the off-season stuff, and kind of what were your thoughts on how the Swans kind of handled things this year?
Absolutely. I keep an eye on it all year round. It's a big source of entertainment, specifically for my youngest daughter and I. And we're hoping that if we sort of remain out of lockdown, that we might be able to get in and see some pre-season training happening, like when that sort of kicks in, specifically, over that Christmas break, because we have our summer break at that particular point in time. But yes, I think that this re-signing of Dylan Stephens, just the anxiety with that just killed me. As his dad knows. It was just, I was really worried that we were going to lose him, but I was relieved when that happened. And I think that I don't know what took them so long with Wicks. That was a little bit of anxiety raising there too. But yeah, I think that with the Dawson thing, I think that obviously the Swans, to me, it seemed like that they held strong, that they wanted something in return for him, and so I think we did well with that. I think that was dealt with rather well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many if Swans fans are going to keep an eye on Melbourne, considering that the pick is tied to Melbourne. Then we're like, are we going to root for Melbourne not to do well so we get a higher pick? We'll have to see. I'm not one to do that, but it is very interesting to hear. Like, I saw a thing on AFL.com. They're like, what teams you should cheer for to not do well? And it's like, well, I know the Swans would want Melbourne to not do well, so then their pick is higher, but we'll have to see. So
Yeah.
we'll go from there. So we've done the off season. Draft is still yet to come. We'll have to see how that goes. But I'm one of those. I hate seeing expectations because then it puts something like it has to happen. What are your thoughts, or do you have expectations on next season?
No, look, my expectation is to go to watch our boys and just to really enjoy it. That's always my expectation. Like I said, it's like a win or lose for me. It's a no-brainer. I just love my club. But obviously it would be phenomenal to see them do well. I think every club wants a flag, but at the end of the day, you go because you just enjoy the game and you love it. So I think that's what it is for me. So yeah.
Keep the positive momentum there for sure. So, all right. So the next few questions, they're going to be some fun ones here because I like being weird like this, and being an American. One of the things that we love talking about is everybody wants to be the general manager. Everybody wants to be the person that makes the moves, or the list manager, as they say a lot in footy terms. So what I'm going to do for fun here is I'm going to install you as the list manager for the Sydney Swans for now. The 17 other clubs in the competition have opened their doors. You can pick any player from any of the 17 teams in the competition. Who's the first person you bring to the Swans?
That's a really hard question.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah. I love our rucks. Like, I think that Peter Adams is going to go so well with Tom Hickey. However, I would have to say Max Gawn. I think he's a really valuable player. So, yep.
Okie dokie. And that's not the first time I've heard that. And I told one person, if you asked me that question, I'd bring a guy home. I'd bring Lear back. But that's me personally. I always loved him in the halfback line. And I think it's one of the things we kind of hurt with last year is we didn't have that big body defender to take on the Tommy Hawkins. Like, McCartan did a heck of a job playing in the back. I think he did fantastic, but he is a little undersized compared to the Hawkins, compared to the Kennedys, the Joey Kennedy of the West Coast Eagles, the oh my gosh, I'm totally brain farty. The guy that won the Coleman from the Carlton Blues. Oh my gosh. Why am I Harry Mackay? I knew if I thought about it long enough. But those are the type of guys that we were a little disadvantaged. The Rory Lobb, like Frio, when Frio did really well at Frio. We didn't have that big body defender that could take a big full forward and take them out of the game. So personally, like, if somebody asked me that question, I'd bring Lear back, either him or Darcy Moore from Collingwood, because I think those would be good defenders that I think would really help our back line, especially considering Rampy's great, but I like Rampy on that mid to small forward because I think it fits his style a little bit, because he can be a little bit more physical, where he faces a Hawkins can just bye-bye Dean Rampy. I love Rampy, but he's a little undersized for that one. So, all righty, we'll move to the next question from there. The last 2 years, the grand final has not been in Victoria. It's been in the Gabba and been at Perth. I'm one of those. I've loved the question over the last couple of years. I thought the last two grand finals were spectacular. I think they went really, really well.
Me
but
too.
I know some people are traditionalists. They love the 2:30 time slot in the MCG, 100,000 people. So I asked this question of everybody. Are you one of those? It has to be traditional at the MCG, same time, no change. Or would you be okay with the occasional traveling grand final at the Gabba, at the Adelaide Oval, at Perth, or maybe even at Sydney Cricket Ground?
I'm not a traditionalist at all. I actually think that, yes, the game started in Victoria and the MCG is a phenomenal venue, but it is the Australian Football League. And so for me, I think it should be shared around. Obviously, like I think the SCG only holds 42 or 44,000 people, but there's no reason why it couldn't be held sort of at Homebush at our Olympic venues. So I think it should be shared around. You know, I think it's nice for all Australians to be able to attend. So.
Yeah. And it's one of those we'll never, unfortunately, we'll never know with the MCC having that 50-year contract, but it's something fun it's something fun to think about. So,
yeah.
already this next topic for me, I cannot wait to talk to you about this because you and I both are foundation members of the AFLW for the Swans. Yes, our Swans are not in the AFLW currently, but they are coming very, very soon. So I ask you, have you been keeping an eye on the AFLW without the Swans? And how excited are you that the Swannies will have a ladies team in 2 years?
Well, there's so much speculation about it too. Like there's so many people that are very traditional and don't believe that there should be an AFLW or that it's not as successful. And yes, it has a different fan base, but for me, I watched a few games last year. I didn't particularly follow it. Just it was sort of like, oh yeah, I'll watch this kind of thing. And especially when there was quite a lot of hype and bullying surrounding some of the players. So it sort of piqued my curiosity. But oh, absolutely. Like once the Swans got involved, it was just a no-brainer. It was like, yes, there's actually going to be something to follow and to do after football. Because for me, I don't follow any other sport. So it was a no-brainer. Yep. It's like we'll have the men's league and then we'll follow on into the women's across summer. And yeah, I think it's exciting. I'm hoping that, you know, we get a few of the players that we currently have, their siblings roll through. So exciting times ahead.
And who knows, we even have the potential the father-daughter. I know Kirky's daughters are working through the academy, so maybe we'll see even some father-daughter connections in for the Swannies. I cannot wait. 2023 can't come quick enough. If I'm being completely honest with you, I cannot wait to see the red and white walk out in the AFLW for sure. So the last few questions, I have some fun ones. These are just really funny for me. As an American, one of the things Americans love when it comes to sporting is eating. We're weird like that. But so for me, I've always wanted to ask the Aussies who attend the games live there is, what's your go-to food at the footy?
I have children that just love to eat constantly. So we generally try, if it's a night game, we will eat on the way to the game. So just a bit of a treat for the kids, whether it's McDonald's or whatever. But yeah, we generally eat on the way and they think that's great. So at the game though, we have my daughter loves to, you know, like she has her little traditions, like we've got our socks and our scarves and that kind of thing. So I get the red licorice bullets that are covered in white chocolate because it's red and white. So the kids always have some sort of like lolly bag and that's something that is always in it for them. If it's really cold at the footy, sometimes we might get, you know, meat pies, sausage rolls. I know that you've just made meat pies yourself recently. So
made them for the grand final. And I can't tell you how over that got me. I even had a friend of mine who lives in Perth reach out and go, mate, you should get an Aussie passport just for doing that. Like it was one. I almost had to save it because it was just hilarious the way he said. He's like, you deserve an Aussie passport for this. So I got a kick out of it. I had a lot of fun. They tasted spectacular. I found the recipe on YouTube. It was a gentleman called the One Pot Chef who's actually Australian. And I followed the recipe that he put on there, and I made him the night before, let him cool off. I tossed him into the warmer about 25 minutes before the grand final started, grabbed one for the final, and I had it while I was watching the final while we were streaming. So it was, I didn't have a beer. That was the only thing Australian I didn't have. Well, we don't get any Australian beers up here. And I didn't want to get like like I know the one thing that I talk with a lot of Australians is we know that Foster's is a Texas company. It's not Australian, so don't drink
Yeah.
it. It's not. So I didn't waste the time with that. But I all the Aussie beers that I see like in the commercials that I watch, it's like none of them get up here. None of them get to the States. So it's really, really difficult for me to like give it a try. Like Great Northern Company, Carlton Draft, all those like that I
Yes.
see
Yes.
commercials for. I just don't have access to, which I know when I go down there, I'll probably try something because I'm not a big drinker, but I'll take the risk. I'm in Australia. What the heck? Why not? So
Yeah, well, we sit in the cheer squad. So for anyone listening that isn't aware of where that is, we have a specific place, and it's in Bay 17 of the SCG, right behind the goalposts. So yeah, there's no drinking in our section because it's sort of like family oriented, and that's
Mhm.
kind of what got me into the cheer squad originally. So we actually had reserved seating around towards the middle, sort of around where the guys sort of sit on the bench. And we just found that there wasn't, where our reserved seats were, there wasn't a lot of Swan supporters that would regularly sit there. And so sometimes we were in the middle of the opposition supporters and things like that. And, you know, crowds can get a bit rowdy, and both our boys are on the autism spectrum. So it was just not family friendly for us. So we sort of, once I got involved with the banner and things and realized that, you know, oh, hang on a second, like there's a cheer squad. We sort of moved over to that section, and it's very family friendly there, and you know the kids can get more involved. So yeah, so if we want to have a drink, we've sort of got to leave that section, and that's fine. But yeah, I think everyone has traditions when it comes to their footy and their food and everything. I know that if it's absolutely pouring rain and it's freezing, we will go for the meat pie, or the kids will have some hot chips or fries, as you guys call them there.
I know most of the slang, so you can throw hot chips, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I've taken the time to try to learn as much as I can. In fact, my wife has some fun with me because I'll sit here and use an Aussie slang, like you said, McDonald's. I said you could have called it Macca's, and I would have known exactly what you were
Yeah.
talking about. So I joke with her all the time. I one time we were getting ready for dinner, and she's like, "What do you want for dinner?" I said, "How about Macca's?" And I just threw it out, not even thinking. And she's
Yeah.
like, "You're not Australian." And I go, "I know, but I hear it all the time." So it's kind of fun. So if you want to throw out the slang, go ahead. I will
Okay.
probably know what you're talking about since
Yeah.
I listen to it enough. So
Well, I know that when we're watching a game from home, we will often do the whole, you know, so a small pie is a party pie here.
mhm.
So we'll do the whole party pies, sausage rolls, cheese dips, the whole thing. Like the kids expect it. Even if that's at mealtime, they're like, oh no, that's it. We've got to have our footy food. So
Spectacular. That is awesome.
yeah.
Now, I know since you're with the cheer squad, you probably already kind of answered this a little bit, but where's your ideal place to watch the footy when you go to a game?
I love sitting there because of the atmosphere. Some people say, oh, but you can't see, you know, the whole thing. But there is the screen. But for me, I like that it's more personable, it's more fun. Sometimes I think the cheer squad would be better off at the other end of the field. But because of the way the seating is, so because right behind the goalpost where we currently are, there's sort of like a driveway. So we're not right behind we're kind of off onto an angle, but it's the atmosphere. I just absolutely love it. So there's the flags, the giant pom-pom flogger things, and yeah, it's just amazing. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, I gotta ask this question, and this is more just because of my knowledge of it. The super fan Kenny, have you ever met him or had a chance to have a conversation with him? Because he just seems like just this amazing person that has so much connection to the Swans. I've seen like chats with him and his wife. So have you ever met Kenny and had a chat with him?
I've only sort of met him to say hello. I haven't had a chat, but him and his wife are lovely. Yeah. And I think that I've often seen them as they're coming in, and the Swans players are coming into their game on game day, and they always make that time to go out of their way to say hello to them both. And I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing his, like, it was the AFL did like a fan supporter series, and Kenny was it, and it was really cool to see that, because I had seen him being in the middle of the team when they sang the song in the 12 grand final when he had the cup, and such a cool moment. But I'd always wanted to kind of, I'm hoping I can get down there so I can meet him. That'd be fantastic for somebody that's so far away. I know who Kenny is. I'd love to be able to just at least say hi and tell him that I know who he is. So alrighty, got just a couple of questions here. As I kind of said, this channel here on YouTube is mostly an American-based channel. It's mostly NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, but occasionally some of the American fans will click on these footy videos. So I had this really cool idea towards the end that, say in some case, an American fan, no allegiance to an AFL squad, clicks on this video and they get to this point. What would be your just a quick little pitch on why this American fan should be a Swans supporter?
The Swans club has a culture like no other club. You know, they're a united front. They're all about doing the best by their players and their fans, and they really promote that family atmosphere. That's why you should barrack for the Swans.
You'll definitely get a tip from me for sure. I definitely agree with that. And I told most people, I said, it's the culture, the Bloods culture, as they talk about it, is something that all of Australia knows about. And I'm one of those. I say it's very true. When I watch the game, the very much the Bloods culture comes out. So that's one of my tips that I say, is that it's a very hardworking, I mean, it's a family organization club, but they're hardworking. They work really, really well. They're tough, gritty side. Though some people would say Sydney is glamorous because of finances. It's one of those. They are such a hardworking, gritty side that I think that's one of the things that I fell in love with. So I have never disappointed. I've never been ashamed to be a Swan supporter, and I don't think I ever will be. So the last question I have, and this is always fun for me because I love hearing what how people answer this. What's your favorite game of footy that you have ever seen? It doesn't have to be a Swans game. Favorite game you've ever seen, whether live or on television?
My favorite game was last year during COVID. It was the Swans versus the Hawks. There was only 4,000 people allowed at the SCG. So I was very privileged to be one of those people there. I was still in the cheer squad bay. This membership, they're an amazing organisation, our membership people. They organised for us to still be able to sit there. So only my two girls and I were able to go from our family, and my beautiful friend Jan was with us and her daughter Brooke. And it was absolutely torrential rain. So it's actually where my profile picture comes from on social media. And we had, thank goodness I took garbage bags with me because we needed them to put all over the seats, everything. It was absolutely torrential. We did beat the Hawks, but it wasn't about that. There was 4,000 people there, but listening to it, there was no fake sound. It just there was so many people there. I think it was probably our first game that had happened due to COVID that people were allowed into. And so those 4,000 people sounded like 40,000 people. It was amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. And that's great that you actually were able to go to it as well. That is awesome. Sarah, that is actually the end of my questions. Again, this has been an awesome conversation. We've gone back and forth on social media so many times. I'd always wanted to sit down and have a chat with you. And when I thought of this series, I thought Sarah's got to be the person I talk to, especially considering can I have you humbly brag? What award did you just win very recently? I have to let you humble brag on this one.
I was nominated for the AFL's Fans Association Fan of the Year Award. So a friend of mine, John in Tasmania, he nominated me. I didn't know. And, you get those dodgy phone numbers that call you and you're thinking, oh, yeah, it's just scam. I'm not going to answer that. Well, I had quite a few calls from this specific number ringing me, and it was actually the Fans Association ringing to tell me that I had won the AFL Fans Association of the Year award. So, which is, I'm very honoured. I mean, I didn't go out of my way to win it. It was just one of those things that someone saw the love that I have for my club and they nominated me for it. So I'm very appreciative of it.
I agree with what a lot of people said on the Swans boards. Very, very well deserved. In fact, I actually have a message from you. Last night, I actually spoke with a Melbourne supporter, and she wanted me to personally thank the Swans cheer squad for making the banner for the Queen's birthday game. She said that
Oh,
she honestly, she felt very, very touched that you guys took the time to be able to do that. And as hurt as she was that she wasn't able to be there, she feels a kinship a little bit with the Swan supporter group that you guys took the time to make that. So from my friend Kat, who was the Melbourne supporter, she wanted me to thank you and the other members of the cheer squad who made that banner. She says that she will be forever grateful and that you guys took the opportunity to do that. So I just wanted to relay that message
oh, thank
here
you.
from you. So
Well, it was an absolute honour to do that. So, because that was obviously the Big Freeze banner as well. So, we got to make that and actually go on field and hold that up. So it was a absolute honour to do that.
all righty. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for my episode. Again, Sarah, thank you so much for agreeing to hop on and having a chat. This has been fantastic. Such a wealth of knowledge and a person that I thoroughly enjoy. One of these days, I'm going to get to Australia. I'm going to come
Yes.
down and see you. If I have to if I can sit in the cheer squad and cheer with you guys,
Yes.
I will totally do it. My wife is excited because she wants to be able to do one of those floggers. She loves them.
Oh,
I still don't know why, but she absolutely loves them. That like every time they're on the television or anytime they're on, she's like flogger. So she absolutely loves it. So I'm hoping I can get her an opportunity to be able to see one of those
they're
in
very
person.
heavy.
That's what she said. She's like, how do they get him to the game? So it's very, very interesting. The
We store
question.
them. We have a
Awesome.
shed that we store them in. Yeah. So
That is
yeah.
fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode in my fan supporter series. Sarah, please have a wonderful day over there in Sydney. Stay safe. I'm glad that you are out of lockdown. Hopefully it stays that way.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great talking to you.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode. We will be back with another episode very soon.